Hey guys, what is up? It is Lindy from Knife Modders or Lindy Lou from Instagram. I mean, I guess both of those accounts are on Instagram, but hello everybody, long time no see. So we're going to be doing something a little bit different, still knife related. So I'm using my phone today. My camera batteries were dead. They're charging right now, and Richie needs to get to work, so I just decided I'm going to be using my phone for today. Apologize for the quality. So today we're going to be talking about, also, I have a fan going because it's like 90 degrees in the shop. Not really, it's probably like 75, but I'm sweating. Um, so we're going to be doing something a little bit different today, still knife related, but I'm going to be talking about how I got into the hobby. So the hobby of collecting knives, obviously, and it'll kind of go into how we started modding knives as well. So it's kind of just my story, but knife related. So when how do I start this? Okay, so I had just gotten clean. We had just gotten clean. We had just gotten sober from using amphetamines. And if you guys would like to hear that story, my addiction story, comment down below. And if enough people would like to listen to it, I'll totally do it. I'm pretty open about our addiction and stuff. I've never really told the full story though, but it's a hell of a ride for sure. Alright, so just before we had gotten clean, Richie had found a Kershaw leak on the ground. While he was walking either home from work, because he worked at 7-Eleven. I don't remember exactly the details there, but he had found a Kershaw leak, which led to Richie researching, I mean, everything. When I tell you Richie researched everything, I mean, he was just every single page, Blade HQ, he started watching knife YouTube religiously. Like, that is the only content that was played during that time. And I hated it. Like, absolutely. When I say I hated it, I mean I hated it. Like, I actively trying to just block it out because we shared a bedroom, right? So, in a house, we shared a bedroom, a very, very small bedroom. And I don't know why I didn't just put in headphones or something, but I didn't. I just tried to keep doing my own thing and pretend that knife YouTube didn't exist. Not that I don't want to say I hated it. I mean, if Richie was passionate about it, cool, good for him. I'm supportive of him, but I had no interest whatsoever. It just sounded like gibberish, actually. So he started playing Love Them Knives and LTK like 24/7. And he just wanted to learn the whole industry, essentially, the knife industry, about all the different companies, the different steels, the different lock types. He loved that stuff. And he wanted to tell me about everything, and I tried. I promise you, I tried. But I just wanted to keep doing my art, keep doing my drawing, doing my makeup, doing my nails, things that girls do. Which is nothing wrong with women getting into knives. Obviously, I love knives. Don't take it that way. So, I had just gotten hired. So, just prior to us getting clean, he started slowly getting into knives. Just slowly. And then right when we got clean, in order to stay clean, we needed a hobby. He just picked up knives. That was his thing. He zoned in on that. It gave him purpose. It gave him something to learn and to keep him busy. Because one of the biggest things, we were bored, extremely bored. And that's what caused us to relapse so many times in the past, is we'd get clean, but out of boredom, not having anything to do, no passions, no just reason to stay clean, we didn't. But this time we did, because of the knife hobby. I totally believe that 100%. I also believe that this time was it. Like, we both knew that we couldn't do this anymore, that our relationship would fall apart if we did try to keep using. And that was the final straw for me as far as my addiction is. Without Richie, I had nothing. Again, I'd have to completely start over, back on the streets, and I was just tired. I was just tired of living that way, and he was too. So I think deep down we knew we weren't going to keep using drugs, but I had an issue with drinking as well, and the last few times relapsed, prior to using drugs, I'd relapsed with alcohol, and because I couldn't not do something, and I had to drink. So this time, that was the scarier part for me. Staying bored, staying stagnant, I would drink. So I wasn't afraid of using, well, maybe if I'd started drinking, I would have started using drugs again. But so just after we got clean, Richie started playing Love Them Knives videos. Actually, hold on, this is kind of funny. I have never said this to Nick Shabazz. I probably should. It's kind of funny. But so the day we got clean, we detoxed for 3 days, meaning we slept, because amphetamines, you don't sleep much. At least I didn't, if you catch my drift. And I like to go up, not down. Even though I loved alcohol. It's a weird thing. Alcohol made me just excited and happy, not sleepy. So yeah, so we detoxed for 3 days straight, meaning we were just like in bed, just absolute zombies. And we had a TV going for 3 days straight. And it was just Nick Shabazz videos. Literally, it was just Nick Shabazz videos. Nick Shabazz videos, I think we watched like almost every single video ever. I remember on the second day waking up at like 3 a.m. And you know the Blade HQ wood whittling video that's like 3 hours that had been on the TV, and it was like 2 hours in, and I just like laid there and watched some faceless dude just like shaving wood with, I don't even remember what the knife was. He was just whittling wood. And the Nick Shabazz videos. So I still at that time was not receptive, but you know, Richie was passionate about it, and I slowly, you know, through association, because we were just in the same room constantly together, him constantly talking about it, like I started to pick up on some things. But now would I remember it? Probably not, but you know, I started to understand little things. So we finally got clean. I'd gotten a job, he'd gotten a job, and one day he was at work and I was at home. And rather than me, you know, turning on some girl-related content, I don't know, art video. I really loved art at that time in my life. I really liked calligraphy and hand lettering and stuff like that. And I never was good at it, okay? I sucked. But anyways, when you're using drugs, you can't be good at least the ones that I was using, you can't be good at anything. At least I couldn't, okay? So he had gone to work, and I had turned on a Nick Shabazz video willingly. Like, I turned it on, and I was just watching it. I was curious. I wanted to learn more. And I'm convinced, because Richie played Nick Shabazz videos for, like, weeks at a time, his little, hey, everybody, just like, sorry, Nick, I love you, just brainwashed me. Him and LTK literally brainwashed me, and then soon Stassa. You guys suck. I'm just kidding. So, I started watching Nick Shabazz, and then he came home, and he saw me watching Nick Shabazz, and he was like, did you turn that on? I was like, yeah, I did. So then he got super excited, and I started asking him questions. He started answering, and he started going over blade shapes, companies, locking mechanisms, steel, just all kinds of things, different scale materials. Now, I was still learning, but like, I couldn't remember 90% of what he had just said, but I was curious about it. So the next day, I had to go to work, and at my work, I worked at Dollar Tree shipping and receiving. So I went to work at like 5 a.m. I got up at like 3:34, and then had to walk to work, and I would unload hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of boxes off of a truck, bring it into the shipping, to the back room essentially, and then load up a cart, and I would go out onto the shop floor, and I would stock whatever, you know, was in those boxes in that area, and then I would break them open, cut them down, and just breaking up in cardboard for like 6 hours straight. My phone is gonna die. Hold up, guys. So, okay, we're back. So I would break down cardboard for like 6 hours straight, and they, at my work, they would give me a box cutter, but instead that day Richie handed me a knife. And that was the first day I got to really use, now because of my job, I got to really use that knife. I think it was a Gonzo FH21. It was one of those Gonzos, the FH series. Actually, it was the Warncliffe one. I cannot remember the model number. But anyway, so I took a Gonzo with me to work, and I used it, and that was the day that I realized just how useful they were, and they were so fun. I really enjoyed using it, and when I got home from work that day, we fucking talked for all night long, not all night long, but we talked for hours and hours and hours, and this was the day that I really became receptive to everything he was telling me, those steel types, lock types, scale material companies. And a part of our relationship is competitive, and in a healthy way, but sometimes not so healthy way, but that's fine. It makes it fun. So what I mean by competitive was because the steel aspects actually was like, I loved that part. That was probably my favorite part for some reason. I really enjoyed it. And I learned about super steels. And so I was determined to get a super steel before Richie. I wanted titanium S35. I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and I wanted to get it before Richie. And I knew I was getting paid that Friday, so I was like, for days and days and days, I researched pages and pages of pages, White Mountain knives, Blade HQ, and I had to find the perfect one. And because, you know, when you're first into the hobby, everything is so cool. Every single knife model, every design, you know, except for the obviously ugly ones, you know, they're still really, really cool. And, you know, but I still kind of had a budget. You know, I couldn't spend $200, $300 on a knife yet. I was barely spending like $30 on Gonzos. But I was determined to do it. So I found, it was right when the drop Ferrum Forge knives came out, the very first time they dropped, and I found the Ferrum Forge Dow. That design was like heaven. I was like, this is perfect. This is the one. And so I bought it, and I got it, and I had the first super steel, the first titanium. I was the cool one in the relationship. It was great. And so around that time, okay, so now it's going to get a little heavy. So around that time, I just ordered it, and it had just arrived, and I had a couple days off. And my dad was really sick. My dad was an alcoholic, a heavy, heavy drinker. I mean, he was 45 years old, and he hadn't had a sober day in years, like blacked out. So, I mean, his brain, he was gone. He was very, very gone. He was in the hospital, and this was a couple months. So I had gotten clean. We had gotten clean August, I say 21st. I don't actually know the date, but it was towards the end of August when we had gotten clean. And my dad went into the hospital towards the end of October. So that's when I got my first titanium S35, my Dow. And so those days off, I told my work that I needed a couple of days off, that I needed to go to Santa Cruz, because that's where my family's from. We live in Watsonville, but the hospital that my dad was at was in Santa Cruz, SoCal area. I go to see my dad, and we stay there. I stay there overnight for days, but I had to come back to work the next day. So I go to bed at like 8. I had to be up at like 3:30, 4 o'clock, so I had time to get ready and walk to work and be there before 5. And just before I left the house, my mom called and told me that my dad had died. And of course, you know, my dad was my world. If you follow me on Instagram, and you watch my stories, you guys know, that broke me big time. Like, absolutely just broke me. And my brain chemicals, if you know anything about addiction, my brain was still not back to normal from using and drinking. I was a blackout drunk for like 5 years, and then, 4 years straight, I was a blackout drinker. I drank every single day, blacked out. And then I started using, and my body was not okay. So I just wasn't okay. Let's just put it that way. I was not okay emotionally, mentally, physically. I was not. And I went to work and I told them what had happened, and they didn't believe me. They didn't believe me at all, because that same weekend there was a concert in Santa Cruz and another coworker had gone to it. And so because of that, they were convinced that I was a liar and that my dad didn't die, and they wanted proof of the death certificate, which he had literally just died. We didn't have a death certificate yet, and that also absolutely infuriated me and just made me feel worthless. So that was sorry. Okay, so back to knives. That same day, I was at work. The day my dad died, I was working pretty slow, but I had my dowel. That was my light in that day, was that I got to use my brand new super steel titanium S35VN, and I was so excited, which made the day not as shitty. So I got to use it, and I was almost done with my shift. I only had like 6 more boxes on my cart that I needed to stock, and I got called to the back room, or I left to go get water. I can't remember, but I left my dowel on my cart. And when I came back, it was gone. I was like, damn, my dad died that day. My manager treated me like shit, and now the knife I barely even got to use for like 5 hours is gone. Yeah, so you could say that was the tipping point, and I lost it. Just started sobbing. I went to the back room and just fucking snot bubbles, the whole thing. And I grabbed a box cutter, I finished my shift, and I left. I went home, and essentially I just never went back to that place. That's a long story, but yeah, so my dowel was stolen, my dad had just died, I was an absolute emotional wreck, and Richie surprised me. He was on Knife Swap. That's where we got most of our knives. From that point on, for just the higher end stuff, we didn't believe in paying full price for something when we could buy it secondhand for a lower price. If we're going to save 20, 30 bucks, even just $10, like, sure, that's great. No tax. So he found a Ferrum Forge buck, and it was up for like $90. It was an absolute steal, and I don't remember if he said something to me or not, but he bought it for me, and he gifted it to me a couple days later when it arrived, and I was just so happy and made life a little bit better, a little bit easier. And then from that point forward, started collecting Civivis, Wiis, Spydercos. I got big into Spyderco. And then from there, you know, Benchmade. I only ever bought one Benchmade, and that is the Bug Out that I still currently own. Their prices, personally, to me, are outrageous. But I know they have great warranty. They're a great company. I'm not shitting on them in any way. Just not my preference. I don't care for Benchmades. But, yeah. So, Spyderco's, a singular Benchmade. Rayot, and now I love Chris Reeves, and we have a Koenig now, Brian Brown Jaegers. I mean, obviously now we're avid collectors, but I do try to keep my collection. I went through a phase where it felt very FOMO, you know, very flavor of the month, and it just, I wasn't passionate about it. The knives that I was buying was because other people thought they were cool, not because I thought they were cool. And so I sold a lot of my Spydercos, a lot of my knives, and I wanted to keep it just things that I liked, because I noticed I would buy something just because I wanted to handle it, not because I loved it. So I started, once we started modding knives, we would have knives come in. And that was a cool way for us to be able to handle fun knives. I said I was going to get into how we started modding knives. My phone is about to run out of space. So actually, you know what? We will save how we got into modding knives for another day. And then maybe the video, if you guys are interested, in my addiction story. We can get into that. So I'm literally about to run out of space. I have 1 minute left on my phone. I'm sorry to end this so abruptly, but So it went from me just absolutely not wanting to listen to anything Richie was saying to slowly becoming receptive, and then becoming competitive, and then becoming a full-blown collector. So I hope that was not too scrambled, and I'm not the best storyteller by any means. I did my best. I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, in the next video, if you're interested, if you'd like to hear how we got into modding knives, that's a fun story. And then also, if you'd like to hear our addiction story. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys so much. I did take a few days off Instagram. I started noticing that my mental health was declining, and it was just tied to me being pretty much addicted to Instagram. So I'm just gonna do that from time to time so I don't go into a depressive episode. Okay, I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one.